They called it a family sitcom, but behind the laughs, there was real tension. Cast members who barely spoke off camera, a creator who mined his own therapy sessions for material, and one actor who nearly walked away before the pilot even aired. These are 20 secrets about Everybody Loves Raymond that stayed buried for decades. Buckle up. This family dinner gets uncomfortable fast. Number 20. The show was born in a therapist's office.
Material, but since I've had twin baby boys, it's been very hard to...
Phil Rosenthal didn't create Everybody Loves Raymond from imagination. He created it from prun. Years before the show aired, Rosenthal was sitting in marriage counseling with his wife, Monica. Session after session, the same issues kept surfacing. His overbearing parents, her need for space, the constant invasions of privacy, the way family drama never seemed to end, even after you moved out and started your own life. One day, his therapist looked at him and said something that changed everything. You should write this down. This is universal. So he did. He started documenting the arguments, the awkward dinners, the passive-aggressive comments from his mother, the silent frustrations with his father. He captured the tone of a marriage being slowly smothered by well-meaning relatives who refused to understand boundaries. When he pitched the show to CBS, he didn't call it a sitcom. He called it a documentary with punchlines. The network hesitated. It sounded too real, too uncomfortable. But Ray Romano saw it immediately, because Romano was living the exact same life. And when the pilot aired in 1996, millions of viewers realized they were too... Number 19, Ray Romano, almost quit before episode 1.
Thank you very much. You're very nice. This is very exciting for me.
Ray Romano wasn't an actor. He was a stand-up comedian who'd spent years grinding through clubs, working clean material about marriage and family life. When Phil Rosenthal saw him perform on The Late Show with David Letterman, he knew immediately, that guy is Raymond. But Romano didn't want it. He loved stand-up. He loved the road. He loved the freedom of walking on stage with nothing but a microphone and his thoughts. A sitcom meant schedules, scripts, rehearsals, and cameras. It meant being locked into one character for years. He turned down the offer 3 times. CBS kept pushing. They offered more money. They promised creative control. They told him it would only be 13 episodes, and if it failed, he could walk away. Finally, Romano's wife stepped in. She told him to stop being stubborn and take the opportunity. So, he signed. But even on the first day of filming, he was miserable. He hated hitting marks. He struggled with memorizing lines. He felt stiff and awkward in front of the camera. At one point, he pulled Rosenthal aside and said, "I think I made a mistake." Rosenthal didn't argue. He just said, "Give it 2 weeks. If you still hate it, we'll figure something out." Romano stayed, and 2 weeks turned into 9 seasons. Number 18, the kitchen set was an exact replica of Phil Rosenthal's childhood home.
Twins are asleep already? I thought you were going to read him a story.
I did, but I
got the brown mustard. You know what? I think maybe I'll just wear the glass.
Walk into the Barone kitchen, and you weren't just walking into a set. You were walking into Phil Rosenthal's past. Every detail was pulled from memory. The placement of the cabinets, the color of the walls, the small table by the window. Even the refrigerator magnets were recreated from photographs of his mother's actual kitchen in New York. Rosenthal was obsessed with authenticity. He believed that if the space felt real, the performances would feel real. So, he flew the set designer to his childhood home, handed him a camera, and said, "Copy everything." They measured countertops. They matched tile patterns. They even sourced the same brand of kitchen chairs his parents had owned in the 70s. When the set was finished, Rosenthal's mother visited the studio. She walked into the kitchen, stopped cold, and started crying. For a moment, she forgot she was on a soundstage in Los Angeles. It looked so much like home that she instinctively reached for the coffee pot in the same spot where hers had always been. The crew watched in silence, because they realized what they'd built wasn't just a set. It was a time machine. And every week, millions of viewers would sit in that kitchen without ever knowing they were guests in someone's actual past. Number 17, Doris Roberts and Peter Boyle clashed constantly off camera.
Yeah, what?
Real cooks don't need recipes. And I'm going to teach Amy how to make it, so we can have another family feast.
On screen, Marie and Frank Barone were a bickering married couple, locked in decades of resentment and routine. Off-screen, Doris Roberts and Peter Boyle barely tolerated each other. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was cold. They rarely spoke between takes. They avoided eye contact during rehearsals, and when the camera stopped rolling, they went to separate corners of the set. The tension started early. Roberts was a trained stage actress, precise and prepared. She memorized lines weeks in advance and expected everyone else to do the same. Boyle was a method actor who preferred to stay loose, improvising, finding moments in the chaos. Their approaches clashed immediately. Roberts would get frustrated when Boyle changed lines. Boyle felt stifled by her rigidity. The rest of the cast tried to mediate, but it never really worked. What saved the show was this. Their real-life tension made the marriage more believable. The annoyance in Marie's voice when she snapped at Frank, that was real. The exhaustion in Frank's eyes when he tuned her out, that wasn't acting. Phil Rosenthal knew about the friction, and he didn't try to fix it. He used it, because sometimes the best performances come from people who can't stand each other. Number 16. Patricia Heaton was never supposed to be Deborah.
Break. I'll tell you, why don't you go out with Linda tomorrow night?
Want to leave the kids with your parents?
No, I'll do the kids.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It's just that your mother is sending out this stupid family.
The role of Deborah Barone was written with someone else in mind. The producers had their eye on another actress, someone with more name recognition, someone they thought could anchor the show alongside Ray Romano. But during auditions, something kept going wrong. The chemistry wasn't there. Every actress who read for Deborah played her too soft or too angry or too distant. They couldn't find the balance. Then Patricia Heaton walked in. She'd been working steadily in television but hadn't broken through yet. She was frustrated, tired of almost getting roles but never quite landing them. She read the sides with Romano and something clicked. She didn't play Deborah as a victim. She didn't play her as a nag. She played her as a woman who loved her husband but was exhausted by his family. She was sharp, funny, and real. When she finished, the room went quiet. Rosenthal looked at Romano. Romano nodded. They offered her the part that same day. Years later, Heaton admitted she almost didn't audition. She'd read the script and thought it was just another wife role, another thankless part where she'd be the straight man to a funny husband. But something told her to go anyway, and that instinct changed her career forever. Number 15. Brad Garrett hated playing Robert for the first 2 seasons.
Tail of a marshmallow duck.
We're having a yard sale. No, we're having a garage sale. No. Make it a...
Brad Garrett was miserable. He'd been cast as Robert Barone, the tall, awkward, perpetually overlooked older brother, and he hated it. Not because the role was bad, but because he didn't understand it yet. In the early episodes, Robert was written as purely pathetic, the sad sack who never got the girl, never got respect, never got anything but scraps. Garrett felt like a punching bag. Every joke was at Robert's expense. Every scene ended with him looking foolish. He started dreading going to work. He'd sit in his dressing room before tapings, staring at the script, wondering if he had made a mistake taking the role. Then something shifted in season 3. The writers started giving Robert layers. They showed his competence as a cop. They gave him romantic storylines that didn't end in humiliation. They let him win sometimes. And Garrett realized Robert wasn't just the loser brother. He was the heart of the show. The one who kept trying despite everything. The one who absorbed the pain but never gave up. Once Garrett understood that, he stopped resisting. He leaned into Robert's vulnerability, his bitterness, his desperate need for love. And he turned what could have been a one-note character into one of the most beloved figures in sitcom history. Number 14. The twin actors playing Jeffrey and Michael were fired and rehired.
Come on, change. You gotta change like
The Barone twins were played by real twin brothers, Sawyer and Sullivan Sweeten. But what most people don't know is they were almost replaced halfway through season 1. The boys were young, barely old enough to follow directions. And filming with them was chaos. They'd cry during takes. They'd wander off set. They couldn't hit their marks or deliver lines on cue. The producers were patient at first, but as episodes piled up, frustration grew. They started looking at other child actors, auditioning new sets of twins who could handle the workload. Then something unexpected happened. The boys got better, not gradually, suddenly. Between seasons 1 and 2, they matured just enough to understand what was expected. They started listening to direction. They stopped being a liability and became assets. By season 3, they were naturals. The decision to keep them was vindicated. They grew up on that set, and audiences watched them grow. By the final season, Sawyer and Sullivan weren't just playing the Barone kids, they were the Barone kids. Tragically, Sawyer Sweeten took his own life in 2015 at age 19. The cast was devastated, and the secret of how close the show came to replacing him made his loss even more heartbreaking. Number 13, Ray Romano rewrote his own lines every single week.
Call first.
Well, they live across the street. Why should they call? It's quicker just to come by.
I know.
What's going on?
What happened?
Ray Romano never trusted the scripts, not because they were bad, but because they didn't sound like him. Every week, after receiving the script, Romano would take it home and rewrite his dialogue. Not all of it, just the parts that felt off. He'd change the rhythm, adjust the phrasing, add pauses where he thought they belonged. Then he'd bring it back to the writer's room and say, "Can we try it this way?" At first, the writers were annoyed. They'd worked hard on those scripts, but Phil Rosenthal recognized what was happening. Romano wasn't undermining them. He was making the character real. Because Raymond Barone wasn't just a character to Romano, he was Romano. Every awkward pause, every mumbled excuse, every defeated sigh that was pulled from his actual life. So, Rosenthal gave him permission to keep tweaking. And the writers learned to write with Romano's voice in mind, knowing he'd adjust it anyway. By the final seasons, the scripts came to him almost finished, because the writers had internalized his rhythms. But even then, Romano would still make little changes. A word here, a pause there. Because he knew that the difference between a good line and a great line was whether it sounded like something he'd actually say. Number 12, the show almost got canceled after season 1.
This is my wife, Deborah. Nobody knows me better than her. I can't get away with anything.
Everybody Loves Raymond premiered in September 1996 to decent but not spectacular ratings. It wasn't a breakout hit, it wasn't generating buzz, and by mid-season, CBS was already having second thoughts. The network had invested in other shows they believed in more. They started moving Raymond around the schedule, testing different time slots, trying to find an audience. Nothing worked. The ratings stayed flat. Renewal looked unlikely. The cast started preparing for the end. Ray Romano went back to booking stand-up gigs. Patricia Heaton started auditioning for other pilots. Then Seeps made a decision that saved the show. They moved Everybody Loves Raymond to Monday nights right after Cosby. Suddenly, the show had a massive lead-in. Millions of viewers who just watched Cosby stuck around for Raymond. And they loved it. The ratings doubled almost overnight. By the end of season 2, Raymond wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. CBS renewed it for a third season, then a fourth, then a fifth. What started as a show on the bubble became one of the most reliable comedies on television. All because of one schedule change, one time slot, one lucky break that almost never happened. Number 11, Doris Roberts stole props from the set every week.
The sculpture you intended to contribute to the church auction?
Yes. I know what he does. I don't need to think about it.
Doris Roberts loved playing Marie Barone, but she loved the props even more. Every week she'd pocket something small from the set, a piece of costume jewelry, a kitchen utensil, a framed photo. Nothing expensive, nothing that would be missed. She called it her little rebellion. The prop department caught on eventually, but they didn't stop her. They actually started leaving things out for her to take, items they knew she'd like. By the end of the show's 9-season run, Roberts had an entire room in her house filled with Marie's belongings. Sweaters, scarves, aprons, handbags, even a ceramic rooster from the kitchen counter. She said it helped her stay connected to the character between seasons. But really, it was something deeper. Marie Barone had become so much a part of her that she couldn't let go. After the show ended, Roberts would sometimes put on one of Marie's cardigans and sit in her living room, pretending she was still on set. Friends who visited said it was eerie how much her home started to resemble the Barone house. The line between Doris and Marie had blurred so completely that even she wasn't sure where one ended and the other began. Number 10, Peter Boyle refused to rehearse his biggest scenes.
Let's find out. Baboon!
Peter Boyle had a strange rule. The bigger the scene, the less he prepared. While the rest of the cast spent hours in rehearsal, running lines, blocking movements, perfecting timing, Boyle would sit in his dressing room doing crossword puzzles. Directors would call for him. He'd wave them off. "I'll be ready when the cameras roll," he'd say, and he always was. But it drove everyone crazy, Doris Roberts especially. She needed rehearsal to feel secure. She needed to know where everyone would be, what they'd say, how the scene would flow. Boyle's refusal to prepare felt like disrespect, But Rosenthal understood what Boyle was doing. He was staying fresh. If he rehearsed too much, the performance would feel stale, mechanical. Boyle believed that Frank Barone was a man who reacted, who lived in the moment, who never thought too far ahead. So that's how he played him. Spontaneous, raw, unpredictable. Some of Frank's best moments, the ones that got the biggest laughs, were completely unrehearsed. Boyle would do something no one expected. A grunt, a look, a perfectly timed exit, and the live audience would explode. After 9 seasons, the cast stopped fighting his process because they realized Peter Boyle knew exactly what he was doing. He just did it differently than anyone else. Number 9. The show's writers spied on Phil Rosenthal's real family dinners.
So the list of things more important than me.
Phil Rosenthal didn't just write from memory, he wrote from observation. Throughout the show's run, he'd invite writers to his parents' house for Sunday dinner. His mother would cook, his father would complain, and the writers would sit there, quietly taking mental notes. They'd watch how his mother guilt-tripped him, how his father turned everyone out with a newspaper, how his wife tried to stay polite while screaming internally. Then they'd go back to the writer's room and turn it into episodes. Rosenthal's mother, Helen, eventually figured it out. She started recognizing her own words coming out of Marie's mouth, her own arguments, her own manipulations. At first, she was embarrassed. Then she was proud. She'd call Phil after episodes aired and say, "That was me, wasn't it?" And he'd laugh and say, "Mom, it's always you." His father was less thrilled. He didn't like being portrayed as a grumpy, disconnected man who lived in his recliner. But Rosenthal told him, "Dad, America loves Frank. They think he's hilarious." That didn't make his father feel better, but it did make him stop complaining, because deep down, even he had to admit, the show wasn't making fun of them, it was immortalizing them. Number 8. Patricia Heaton and Ray Romano didn't get along for 3 years.
Me off, and then she leaves. But it stays with me, and I just get angrier and angrier.
Why can't you take her to this thing?
Because it's a father-daughter.
On screen, Raymond and Deborah had chemistry. The banter felt natural. The arguments felt real. The love underneath it all felt earned. But off-screen, Patricia Heaton and Ray Romano barely spoke. For the first 3 seasons, their relationship was purely professional. They'd show up. They'd hit their marks. They'd deliver their lines. Then they'd go their separate ways. There was no hostility, just distance. Romano was quiet, introverted, more comfortable with the crew than the cast. Heaton was warm and social, constantly trying to build relationships on set. But Romano didn't respond. He'd give short answers, avoid eye contact, keep to himself. Heaton thought he didn't like her. She'd go home wondering what she'd done wrong. Then one day during season 4, they were filming a particularly emotional scene. Something shifted. After the take, Romano walked over and said, "That was really good." It was the first real compliment he'd ever given her. They started talking more after that. Small conversations at first, then longer ones. By season 5, they were friends. By season 9, they were like family. Heaton later said the distance in the early years actually helped the show. Because Raymond and Deborah weren't supposed to be easy with each other. They were supposed to be 2 people learning how to survive marriage. And in a way, that's exactly what the actors were doing too. Number 7. The finale was written 2 years before it aired.
What'd everybody do?
Phil Rosenthal knew how the show would end before most people knew it was ending. In 2003, during season 8, he sat down and wrote the series finale. Not an outline, the entire script. He locked it in a safe in his office and told no one what it said. Not the cast, not the network, not even the other writers. He just knew that when the time came, that's how it would end. When CBS announced season 9 would be the last, Rosenthal pulled out the script. He made a few small adjustments, but left it mostly unchanged. The cast read it during the table read, and several of them cried. It wasn't a big dramatic ending. It was quiet, intimate. A family sitting around a table, eating, talking, being together, just like they'd done for 9 years, just like real families do every single day. Romano later said he was grateful Rosenthal had written it so far in advance, because it meant the ending wasn't rushed, it wasn't forced, it was exactly what it needed to be. A goodbye that didn't feel like goodbye, just another dinner, another moment, another reminder that family, for better or worse, never really ends. Number 6. Brad Garrett was legally blind without his glasses. Brad Garrett kept a secret from most of the cast and crew for years. He could barely see. Without his glasses, everything beyond 10 feet was a blur. But Robert Barone didn't wear glasses. So, every time Garrett stepped on set, he took them off. And then he had to perform. He memorized where the furniture was. He counted steps to hit his marks. He relied on peripheral vision and muscle memory to navigate scenes. Sometimes he'd walk right past another actor because he genuinely couldn't see them. The audience thought it was character work, Robert being awkward and oblivious. But it was just Garrett being blind. Directors would call out directions and he'd nod, pretending to see what they were pointing at. Ray Romano figured it out first. He noticed Garrett squinting during blocking, so he started quietly guiding him. A light touch on the arm, a whispered, 2 steps left. Garrett never asked for help, but Romano gave it anyway. Eventually, the whole cast knew, and they all started doing little things to help without making it obvious. Because that's what family does, even a pretend one. Garrett later joked that playing Robert actually made him a better actor. Because he couldn't rely on his eyes, he had to feel his way through every scene. And sometimes, not seeing made everything clearer. Number 5. The show made more money in syndication than during its original run.
Picture, if you will, a world so...
When Everybody Loves Raymond ended in 2005, it had been a solid hit for CBS. Good ratings, strong demographics, a loyal fan base, but no one predicted what would happen next. Syndication. The show exploded. It aired 4, sometimes 5 times a day across different networks. TBS, TV Land, local stations, and people couldn't stop watching. The ratings in syndication were actually higher than some of the original airings. Why? Because the show was comfort food. People didn't just watch it once, they watched it over and over. It became background noise in millions of homes. Something to put on during dinner, before bed, on lazy weekends. The repetition didn't cull it, it strengthened it, and the money started pouring in. Licensing fees, international sales, streaming deals. By 2010, the show had generated over $4 billion in revenue. $4 billion. More than almost any sitcom in history. The cast made more from residuals than they ever did from their original contracts. Ray Romano once joked that he gets a check every time someone in Ohio turns on their TV. And while that's an exaggeration, it's not far from the truth. Because Everybody Loves Raymond didn't just end. It became a show that would run forever, making money forever, living in living rooms forever. Number 4. Doris Roberts fought CBS to keep Marie from being too nice.
Toaster, Ma. It said, Merry Christmas, we love you. Michael, Jeffrey, Allie, Deborah, and Ray.
The network had notes. They always had notes. And one of their biggest concerns throughout the show's run was Marie. They thought she was too mean, too manipulative, too unlikable. They wanted her softened. More hugs, more apologies, more moments where she admitted she was wrong. Doris Roberts fought them every single time. She told executives, if you make Marie nice, you call the show. Because Marie wasn't supposed to be likable. She was supposed to be real. Real mothers don't always apologize. They don't always see what they're doing wrong. They love fiercely and smother completely and never quite understand why their children need space. Roberts knew that if Marie suddenly became self-aware, the whole thing would fall apart. So, she refused to play her any other way. She'd get scripts with softened dialogue and she'd cross it out, put the edge back in. She'd get direction to warm it up and she'd ignore it. Phil Rosenthal backed her completely. Because he knew his own mother. And his mother never apologized either. The network eventually gave up. And Marie Barone stayed exactly who she was. Infuriating, intrusive, impossible, and somehow beloved anyway. Because Roberts understood something the executives didn't. You can love someone and want to scream at them at the same time. And that's not a flaw in the writing, that's family.
Number 3. Ray Romano had a clause that let him leave if his stand-up career took off.
Is that young? Yeah, sure, you're healthy. No, I was just wondering, could we do this on the phone? Yes, yeah, I'll hold, thank you.
When Ray Romano signed his contract for Everybody Loves Raymond, he wasn't thinking long-term. He was thinking about survival. So, his agent negotiated something unusual, an exit clause. At any point during the first 3 seasons, Romano's stand-up career exploded. If he started selling out arenas, if he got a special deal that required touring full-time, he could walk away from the show. No penalties, no lawsuits, just a clean exit. CBS agreed because they didn't think it would ever happen. They were wrong. By season 2, Romano was headlining clubs across the country. By season 3, he was selling out theaters. He could have left. He could have gone back to stand-up full-time, making the same money without the grind of weekly television production. But he didn't, because something unexpected happened. He fell in love with the show. Not the fame, not the money, the work, the family he'd built with the cast, the chance to tell stories that mattered. So when season 4 negotiations came around, he tore up the exit clause. He told CBS, "I'm in, all the way," and he never looked back. Years later, Romano admitted the clause was his safety net, his way of not feeling trapped. But once he stopped needing it, once he stopped looking for the exit, that's when he actually became Raymond, not the character, the man who chose family over everything else. Number 2, the cast didn't know Peter Boyle was seriously ill during the final season.
I was there and I saw your wife fall apart. I never saw her look like that. And I'll...
So amazing was that he was so different than the characters he played both on.
Peter Boyle was dying, and he didn't tell anyone. During season 9, he was battling multiple health issues. Heart disease, respiratory problems. His body was shutting down, but he showed up to every taping. He hit every mark. He delivered every line, and no one knew how bad it really was. The cast noticed he was tired. He'd sit down between takes. He'd catch his breath more often, but Boyle brushed it off. "Just getting old," he'd say with a grin. Then he'd get up and film another scene. It wasn't until after the finale wrapped that the cast learned the truth. Boyle's doctor had told him to stop working, to rest, to focus on treatment. But Boyle refused. He told his wife, "I'm finishing this show. I'm saying goodbye the right way." And he did. He made it through the final episode. He took his final bow in front of the live audience. He hugged the cast, and then he left. Peter Boyle passed away in December 2006, just over a year after the series ended. The cast was devastated, not just because they lost a friend, but because they realized he'd been suffering in silence, giving everything he had left to finish what they'd started together. That's not acting, that's love. Number 1, Phil Rosenthal's real brother inspired Robert, but they're no longer speaking.
Oh my God!
Robert Barone wasn't just a character, he was a person. Phil Rosenthal's older brother, Richard, the tall, awkward, overlooked son who lived in his younger brother's shadow. Every insecurity Robert had, Richard had first. Every time Robert got passed over for a promotion or a date or respect, that came from Richard's real life. Rosenthal mined his brother's pain for comedy, and Richard knew it. At first, he was okay with it. He even found it funny. He'd watch episodes and call Phil, laughing about the accuracy. But as the show went on, as Robert's humiliation became a weekly routine, as millions of people laughed at a character based on him, Richard stopped calling. He stopped watching. He stopped speaking to Phil altogether. Rosenthal tried to reach out. He tried to explain that Robert was also the heart of the show, the one everyone rooted for. But Richard didn't see it that way. He saw a younger brother who'd become rich and famous by making him the punchline. They haven't spoken in over 15 years. Rosenthal has said in interviews that it's one of his biggest regrets, that the show that brought him everything cost him his brother. And that's the final secret of Everybody Loves Raymond. Sometimes the cost of telling the truth is losing the people who lived it. Bonus fact, the show's most iconic line was completely improvised.
Why did you take the lasagna?
Holy crap. That's it. 2 words that became Raymond's signature, but it was never in the script. During the first season, Ray Romano was filming a scene where Raymond walks in on something unexpected. The script called for a generic reaction. But when Romano saw the setup, he just blurted out, "Holy crap." The audience exploded. The director kept it in. And from that moment on, writers started putting it into scripts. By the final season, Raymond had said it over 200 times. It became so associated with the character that when Romano did stand up, audiences would yell it at him from the crowd, a throwaway ad-lib that became the show's calling card. Because sometimes the best moments aren't written, they're just living. Everybody Loves Raymond ran for 9 seasons, 210 episodes, millions of laughs, but behind every punchline was something real. Therapy sessions turned into scripts, real family dinners turned into storylines. Cast members who barely spoke off-camera but created magic on screen. It wasn't just a sitcom. It was a mirror held up to every family dinner, every overbearing parent, every exhausted marriage trying to survive another day. And maybe that's why it still plays somewhere, every single day, in living rooms across the world. Because the secrets don't matter as much as the truth underneath them. That family is messy, uncomfortable, frustrating, and somehow we love them anyway. If you loved learning what really happened behind the Barone family's door, go ahead and like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which fact shocked you most. Thanks for watching. And remember, everybody loves Raymond, but nobody said it was easy.